Record. Okay, there we go. See, I'm a press the flesh kind of guy. I like to see people. Anyway, right, that's just on recording. So I'll put my serious face on now, and less chit chat. Chit chat. Do you know what chit chat is, guys? Chit chat. What is chit chat?
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know. It's
Chatting about something.
One at a time.
Yeah, go on.
Somebody tell us what chit chat is.
I think it's the same as the small talk in America.
Yeah, we say small talk here. We said very similar to small talk, yeah. It's subtly different. Small talk is, the nuances are, small talk is talking about the weather, this kind of thing. Chit chat is a wee bit more gossipy, you know, chit chat, a wee bit more gossipy. Inconsequential conversation. It was a leisurely dinner with much chit chat and laughter. Yeah. Talk about trivial matters. I can't stand around chit chatting. So that's chit chat. So that's a good word to know. And I see they spell it with a hyphen. So there you go. So that's chit chat. Right. So I'll do a couple of things that I've done in the group that I didn't get conversation. I didn't get any comments from anybody. I don't know why. I did get a comment on grind and axe. Were people familiar with that? Grinding an axe? Had you guys heard of that before?
No, I don't.
No. So this is pretty common. What we might say is axe to grind, actually. Axe to grind. Meaning. No, I don't actually love this definition, right? It doesn't always have to be a selfish aim or motive, right? It does not, right? But it's where somebody has got a really strong opinion in something, right? And they feel that when they're in conversation, they have to bring this subject up. Like, for example, let's say somebody's a vegetarian. You know what a vegetarian is? Somebody who only eats vegetables. That's fine, right? But some people are so strong in their opinion about that matter that they feel everybody else should have the same opinion as them. So I'm a vegetarian, so you guys all should be vegetarians as well. Are you not? Don't you realize what you're doing to the planet? Blah, 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 right? So that's somebody with an axe to grind, and their axe is vegetarianism, as an example, right? So you can get it on religious topics, you can get it on any kind of apologetic issue, you can get it on political issues, you know. And generally, somebody who's got an axe to grind, in my opinion, it's a mark of an immature personality, right? It's somebody who is, they're not broad-minded, right? They're not broad-minded. Somebody who's broad-minded is kind of very level-headed and can see, actually, that's another good term, is broad church. I'll come to that in a minute, broad church. Somebody who can have a good perspective on things and not be too fanatical about one thing, you know. I shared with you a long time ago Churchill's quote, very famous quote on fanaticism. Does anybody remember what that was? I'll come back to that. Before I do, does everybody got an axe to grind? What that means?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll if I think of other sentences that maybe contain that expression, I'll sort of feed them in. And it might seem a little unnatural, but it's just to sort of drive home the meaning. Can anybody remember what Churchill said about an axe to grind? Sorry, about fanaticism. Anyone?
Yep.
What was it?
He said the fanatic doesn't stop talking about what he's fanatical about, and he doesn't stop. I think he doesn't stop thinking.
So you've got the gist of it. The gist of it. Do you know that word gist?
Yeah.
You've got the gist of it, but you haven't got the pithy quote. Which he was very good at coming up with pithy quotes, right? So a fanatic is one who can't change his mind and won't change the subject.
Yes.
Brilliant definition, right? So if you're fanatical about, vegetarianism, say, right, then you'll not change from that, right? Because you're a fanatic, right? And that's all you want to talk about. So you see why I brought that up after axe grinding, because it's in a similar kind of milieu. You see that? But you wouldn't call someone who's an axe to grind necessarily a fanatic. But like, let's say in work, let's say I've not been promoted and it's really bugging me, right? And I keep bringing it into conversation. Like people would say, oh, that guy's got an axe to grind. All he can talk about or think about is promotion. You see, so something like an axe, that's definitely seen as negative. And so is fanaticism as well. That's seen as negative, right? But I love that quote. It's just so pithy. Pithy. Do you know that word, pithy?
Yes.
You know that
Like
word?
shame.
Containing much pith, terse and vigorously expressive. His character is the pithy comment. So it's the key thing is it's very short. It's not verbose, not lots of words. It's just in a few small words, nails the point, brings it home. That's what we wouldn't typically say speaking with much pith. Oh, that's of a fruit or a plant. In language, terse, but we typically say pithy. Okay. Right. Next word, melancholy. What does that mean? Do you know this word? No? Are you melancholy today, Mona?
No.
No, you're not. That's right. You're never melancholy. You're always bright. Bright as a button. So melancholy is the opposite of that. Melancholy is sad. A feeling of pensive sadness, typically with no obvious cause.
Teacher,
Yeah.
when I remember bad situations or sad situations, I am melancholy or I feel melancholy.
Yes, that's correct. You would say melancholic in that scenario.
Yeah.
I'm feeling very melancholic because I remember this time last year, I lost my brother,
Yeah.
And as I reflect on that, it's Christmas time, especially, It makes me feel very melancholic. So I'm very sad. Yeah. So that's a good word to know, melancholy. Right. Here is a nice expression in English, very common. Wither on the vine. What does it mean to wither on the vine? Anyone? It's new to y'all, isn't it? Wither on the vine. Fail to be implemented or dealt with because of inaction. That resolution clearly withered on the vine. So
wither on the vine.
Wither on the vine. So it's when a decision has been made, typically, to do something, implement something, get some change or whatever, and it's not implemented, right? It's not followed through. It's not followed up. And so it's like a fruit, grapes on the vine, they're not plucked when they're ripe. And so they just wither on the vine and shrivel up and get dried up and fall off, right? So that, that program at the government is running, it's withering on the vine. It was full of good intention. So I would say this really is pretty common. Let's look up some example sentences. He was a workaholic who left her. He was a workaholic who left her to wither on the vine. Ipsa expected the practice to wither on the vine. Right, so what that's saying there is, so that was a man who, I assume that he left his wife to wither on the vine, right? So he was a workaholic in the sense that he just worked all the time. He never had any home life, he never had any balance, and he's leaving his wife to wither on the vine. He's not leaving her, I am leaving you. He's leaving her in the sense of he's giving her no attention, no love, no care. And that's how the expression is being used there. See that? So that was quoted in newspaper. That's a tabloid newspaper in the UK. Here's one from the Sunday Times. Ipsa expected the practice to wither on the vine, a source at the watchdog said. So I don't know what this is criticizing, right? But it's something going on, some kind of practice or other. And what they're saying is it's just going to die a death. That's another strange thing that we say. It's going to die a death. You've probably never heard that one either, have you? I'll come back to that one. Die a death. When I think about it, it's really weird. Anyway, let's finish off this one. Old reliables in the tax system. Oops, we're getting some Spanish coming in here. Gabby will be happy. Old reliables in the tax system, such as field duty, are being allowed to wither on the vine. And that's a very, very, very good example of use of this expression. So it's obviously a political discussion in the newspaper about the tax system. And what they're saying is fuel duty, right? How much tax is on fuel is going to be allowed to wither on the vine, i.e. they're not going to pay attention to it and just expect that issue to go away. Make sense? So here they're using it in a very literal sense. Last year, some had to let their grapes wither on the vine owing to the cool, wet weather. They couldn't pick them, and so the wines just shriveled up. But using it in the real life scenario of grapes is not as interesting as the idiomatic expression. So let's bring it home, right? So if I didn't run this class each week, this community would wither on the vine. Yeah. So is everybody completely comfortable with withering on the vine?
Teacher, I didn't understand.
Just repeat that for me, Mona.
Teacher, I didn't understand the meaning of this.
Yeah, okay. Right. I'll give it a few more minutes then. So you know what the word wither means? Wither. Do you know that word?
I used dictionary, but I didn't understand.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's fine. So wither, right? Wither means it becomes very weak. Here's if a flower or plant withers, it dries up and dies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you got some plants in your house, you don't water them, they just shrivel up and somebody gives you, I present some flowers to you, they're all bright and lovely, and you don't water them and they all go really sad and wither.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's wither.
Yeah.
Wither. Now,
yes.
So if you cut plants, and take them off their root, their stem, they have to be watered and tended and cared for. They're not going to grow themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, so you need to water and tend them in order for them to not wither. Now, but if you leave something on the original stem itself, even like luscious fruit like grapes, if you never attend to that and never pluck them, they will eventually wither themselves and die. They won't live forever. They won't continue. Yes. Yeah. So they go through a cycle and they'll wither and they'll die. So that's what happens in real life. So what we do in English is we take that observation from plant life and we then apply it to every other walk of life when something kind of shrivels up and dies. So it could be a community. The community was quite remote and there was no jobs for the young people. The young people all started leaving to get better jobs. And so the community began to wither and die.
Okay.
Makes sense? So,
yes.
So the analogy, the picture from the plants, horticulture is being applied to a community. I could apply it to a school. I could apply it to university. I could apply it to politics. You could apply it to your body. Oh, I had an accident and my artery got severed and I tried to bandage it, but I was a few days before I could get to hospital and my arm withered and died.
Okay.
Okay. You got it now? You got it?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Thank you.
No problem. So the other expression I used there without realizing it, but when it was out of my mouth, I realized it was an expression you should know, is die to death. Now that seems really weird to me. It must seem really weird to you guys too, right? Why would you say die to death? Like when you use it, what you mean is died. But we say die to death, never about anything living, never about an animal or a person. But we would say it about man-made things, right? Man-made programs, initiatives, die to death. Let's look up what the internet's going to say about it. Oh, die a death. Did you mean that? Oh, try that one. It's giving me examples, definitions here, but is it not going to give me a definition? Right, here's a very typical example. Once this happens, the project will die the death. We would typically say die a death rather than die the death, right? So the thing that's dying here is the project. So for example, the funding was removed. So the project died a death. So it's the same as saying the project died. It's the same as that. But it's a kind of verbal way of underlining the statement. Make sense? You got a question, Mona?
Teacher, it means finish something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finished. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
One of the group, Sarah Khan, is just texting me here. I'll tell her to join if she's free. Right. Okay. So that was unusual. Right. Right. Here's a good word. Cogent. Do you know that word? Anyone?
No.
No. So I was speaking to this person about let's say female rights in country acts. I won't mention the country, right? Rights of women in country acts. And they made a very cogent argument that the rights they have are being regressed. So we would often use the word cogent with the word argument, a cogent argument. And what that means is an argument that's well thought through. I couldn't ignore her because she had a really cogent argument. So if you get that in your head, you've got the word cogent. Right, let's look up the dictionary def. This is an example sentence. Be clear about what you have to offer on an academic and personal level, your ability to put together a cogent argument, and your excellent communication and time management skills. So your ability to put together a cogent argument, i.e., can you argue why something should be the case? Cogently. The opposite of emotionally. Like some people get really emotional. You have to do this. You have to accept what I'm saying. I'm right, right? It's all emotion and there's no logic, right? And you're never going to convince anybody with emotion, right? You have to be calm and you need to argue your case. You might win, you might lose, but the more cogent an argument you can make, the clearer it is, then the more attention you will get and the more likely that you will succeed. Am I making sense, folks? So here is cogent and dictionary definition. Clear, logical, convincing. They put forward cogent arguments for British Premiership membership. Clear, logical, convincing. Great definition, perfect definition. Okay, so that's cogent. Right, next word is berate. Do you know what berate means? I don't think you will. But this is a pretty common word. Scold or criticize someone angrily. She berated herself for being fickle. So strongly criticizing herself, right? Or I got berated by my boss for being late again. Which means I was getting criticized. Berate.
Berate.
Make sense?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Good. Right. So that's berate. Right. Next one. You know what victory means, don't you? What a victory is? What's a victory? Anyone? What's a victory?
Winning.
Yes, exactly. Winning. So I was in a chess match, and eventually I had victory. It lasted 3 hours, but eventually I had victory. I'm absolutely cock a hoop, to coin an expression we used a while ago. We learned a while ago. I was cock a hoop. I was absolutely delighted. I was doing cartwheels because I won that chess match, right? So it was a victory. A victory. And you might say I was victorious as well. I was victorious. I chanced my arm and played a game with Elham of chess online, but unfortunately she was victorious and I'm not happy about that. So I'm now very melancholy. And I got berated by my kids for losing to this young woman who's clearly far more intelligent than me and certainly much better at chess. Right? So we've got victory and we've got victorious. Now, I wanted to make sure we'd gotten that before we do this next expression, which is a hollow victory. Does anyone know what a hollow victory is? So this is an idiomatic expression in English used both in America and in Britain. A hollow victory. What is a hollow victory?
I can make a guess.
Go
I
ahead.
know each
Yeah.
of word meaning. I guess it is something like you think you have won something, but you didn't.
That's a good guess. That's a good guess. And it's not exactly right. A hollow victory is where you are victorious, but after you're victorious, you learn something, right, about the situation that completely takes the taste away of the victory, right? So let's see what the dictionary says, and then we'll get some examples. Okay. What they're saying here is a hollow victory is where someone wins in name, but is not seen to have gained anything. Hollow victory, example sentence. You see how it's being used here. But the problem is, because we're not seeing the whole of the newspaper article, we don't know what that other thing is that's going on that makes the victory hollow. I don't know if those examples help. So that's saying it's a victory used figuratively or idiomatically, a victory that is hollow, meaningless. A hollow victory is where someone wins something in name, but are seen not to have gained anything by winning. I'm not getting any other great examples here, but is this beginning to make sense, a hollow victory? So, like, let's go back to my chest example. I was playing, and this time we'll pick on Gabby, right? I was playing Gabby, a game of chess, and I won. I was really, really happy. But then I find out that Gabby had just been diagnosed with a serious illness. So it was really a hollow victory. See that? So yeah, I won this game of chess, but this other thing was so much more significant, like a serious health issue, a terminal illness or a serious illness, that really it doesn't matter that I won that game. And I almost wish I had lost the game. So it was a victory, but it was a hollow victory. That example that I'm using sort of gets closer to how it would actually be used. Technically, I won, but I may as well not have won. And I actually wish I hadn't. It was a hollow victory. Yeah? We all good? Somebody give me a thumbs up and I'll move on. Or put your hand up if you want me to stick with this for a bit. Right. So the next thing is related. It's a landslide victory. Now this should be very obvious what it means. It's a landslide victory. Is an election result in which the victorious candidate or party wins by an overwhelming margin. The term became popular in the 1800s to describe a victory in which the opposition is buried, similar to the way in a geological landslide buries whatever it's in its path. Now, I learned something today doing this because I didn't know that's where it came from. I didn't know that. And in actual fact, how we use this expression, we don't just use it in politics. It's clearly come from politics, and that's its genesis, right? That's where it came from. But we would say this about any situation. So, Scotland were playing Colombia in the World Cup. But you know what? It was a total landslide. Colombia beat us 6-0. It was a total landslide. So that's, you know, an overwhelming win. It wasn't a 3-2 or it wasn't a draw. It was a landslide. It was a massive victory. Landslide. Everybody happy with that? Yeah. Okay. And there was one that was popping up there, which was a Pyrrhic victory, but people don't say that. It's not very common, so I'm not going to teach you that. Right. What does this mean? Spleen. What is spleen? Anyone? Well, do you know from an anatomical point of view what your spleen is in your body? Anybody know that? Okay, I'm getting nothing. Right. So first of all, in your body, right, an abdominal organ involved in the production and removal of blood cells in most vertebrates and forming part of the immune system. So your spleen is really important, right? Really important. But the particular use I want you to learn today is this: bad temper, spite. He could vent his spleen on institutions which had duped him. Right? So to vent your spleen is to be really angry, right? Really, almost uncontrollably angry. Really, you know, you're really shouting out about the thing. That's what it means to spleen, to vent your spleen. So, see that, vent your spleen, vent his spleen. To express angry feelings, I listened patiently while she vented her spleen. So, Crystal, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Crystal had a really bad day in the office and she just vented her spleen. But I listened patiently, and afterwards she felt better because she had somebody to talk to about it. Okay? Everybody got that? Yeah, getting a few thumbs up here. Okay. Right, here's a really good expression: Broad Church. And it doesn't really have anything to do with church. And I know that none of you will know the meaning of this, so I'm just going to go straight into the definition of it, right? What does broad church mean? A tradition or group within the Anglican Church favoring a liberal interpretation of doctrine, right? So that's the original idea, right? So you get some people who are very strict and very narrow-minded, and you get other people who are very broad-minded, right? So broad church, that expression is applied not in an ecclesiastical setting, usually, actually, you know, it obviously does come from there, but it's applied in any walk of life where somebody has a liberal outlook, caters for, allows for, and caters to a wide range of opinions and people. This is about whether the party will be a broad church or a narrow clique. That's a good example. So the party, that's probably speaking about a political party. You're formulating a party and you're coming up with the policy, right? The founding documents of this party we're going to create. And we're going to decide together, are we going to go for a broad church or a narrow clique? And I would advocate for a broad church because I think you need to consider every person. Doesn't mean everyone is right, but we need to take account of everyone and all their different views and backgrounds. Broad church. Broad church example sentence. My party is also a broad church, and that is only right. The amendment has a broad church of supporters. There are many different definitions that one, definitions that one can use for division, and broad church is undoubtedly one of them. My party is a broad church with room for many shades of opinion. That's a pretty good use of the term. Okay. So within Alan's English group, we are a broad church, right? It doesn't mean to say that any of us are Anglican or even living in England, because none of us are, but we're a broad church in the sense that we've got a wide range of people here and a wide range of views. Everybody comfortable with that? Yeah, I'm getting some thumbs up now. Right. What does this word mean? You might know this. Propensity. What does that mean? Propensity. Okay, no responses. So what propensity is where someone, something, doesn't have to be an individual, could be a party, could be a government, could be a piece of machinery, right? If something has a propensity, we always say it is a propensity to something, right? So that child is clumsy to have a propensity to fall down and bumping into things. A propensity. That is, they have, it's like the probability of something will happen is high. That's what propensity is. Let's see what the dictionary says. An inclination or natural tendency to behave in a particular way. Now, it's not positive or negative, right? It's neither. And here it's used in a negative context. It's saying his propensity for violence. So there's somebody that's being used in a negative way who has a propensity for violence. But you could have, say, someone who has a propensity for making peace, the opposite, right? It's just as valid use of the word propensity. So it's I personally would use the word predilection in that scenario. That's another word, it's a good word to use, but propensity. Propensity, example, sentence. Here's a great during hot days, he has a propensity for walking around in just his boxers. Men have a slightly increased propensity toward baldness. I mean, a woman can get bald, but it's much rarer in a woman, right? But a lot of men get bald. In the past, technological improvements did not decrease human beings' propensity to wage war. It only made people better at killing. There you go. But as he grew stronger, his desire for their good opinion paled before an overmastering propensity to meddle in the affairs of foreign nations. Whoa. Very interesting. So that's a political statement there. But you see the meaning? A propensity to meddle, i.e., this strong inclination to go and meddle. That may be one way early nutrition can affect adult propensity to disease. There's a good use of it. Propensity to disease, somebody gets sick easily. The propensity to tiller is of the greatest importance as it multiplies the resources of the farmer. I'm not sure I understand that one. The presence of bedding or cleavage planes against the general slope reduce the propensity for mass movements to grade the slope. Okay. Do you all feel that you understand the word propensity and could therefore use it in a sentence? I'm just seeing your question, Christelle. I'll come back to you on that in a moment. Does everyone feel they understand propensity? Yeah, I've got one thumbs up, two thumbs up. Okay, that's good. Now, Crystal asked the question. She said, didn't get it. Can I use it for Catholic too? I think, Crystal, you're referring back to the Broach Church discussion we had a few moments ago. Is that right? Can you, yeah. So that's a really good question. So a question is given the fact that this Broach Church definition came from the Anglican tradition, that's Protestant, she's asking, could you use that in the context of Catholics? That's a great question. Now, so I strictly don't know the answer, so I'm going to ruminate. I'm going to tell you what I think. And then we'll Google it and see if anybody on the internet has got an opinion on that. So my opinion on that is this. You probably would not use it in the context of the Catholic Church. Not that it would be strictly wrong, but it just grates because the expression is emanating from a different tradition of the church. And so you wouldn't, as we say sometimes, mix metaphors. You just wouldn't do it. What you can do is take that expression, broad church, and apply it to all walks of life, nothing to do with the church, nothing ecclesiastical. You apply it to business, you apply it to politics, you apply it to families, you know, you can apply it in lots of places with impunity. That means with no punishment, right? No problem. You can do that. But the one place you probably wouldn't go is the Catholic Church. And that's the main reason. The second reason is the Catholic Church, because it all is controlled by the Vatican and the Pope and so on, it tends to be much more homogenous in terms of what they believe and teach. There's less flexibility, I would say, there, right? I mean, ultimately, the Pope's in charge of the Vatican, you might say, since they change who the Pope is every few years, but it's fairly homogenous. Like, so I don't know where you are based, Christelle, but if, say, you're in Puerto Rico or somewhere, right? The local priest guy can't teach something that is not authorized teaching of the Catholic Church. He has to teach what he's taught to teach. You know what I mean? He's not really a free agent. Yeah, you're from Costa Rica. Yeah, we're Catholic. Yeah. So the local Catholic priest, he has to teach what the Catholic Church teaches, right?
Wow.
So, okay, makes sense? Everybody comfortable with what I'm saying? So I'm just stating facts, yeah? But it's a good expression to know when you hear it used, if you're talking to a native, it will be used not in the context of church, but it's something that emanates from the church. The idea, the concept emanates from that, but it's used in every area. Okay, well, that's 5:10, guys. So we'll be going for over an hour, and we're pretty much done. I'm just about done, to be honest with you. I'm a bit tired. So I think I'll end it there for today, unless anyone has any burning questions, and then I'll take one last question if anyone has one. Otherwise, I was going to say, I'll talk to you guys on Sunday, but I realize I can't have a class on Sunday because we've got a family function. It's my daughter's 30th birthday on actually on Monday, but we're celebrating on Sunday. And so I will not be free on Sunday. So I won't have a class then, but I will have a class. I'll write in the forum so that everyone knows. I'll write in the group chat. But I will plan, God willing, all being well, next Thursday, this time next week, to have a class. And can I encourage you all to, write things in the forum, like write things in the group chat, right? So like, if I ask a question, dive in and answer the question. Or have a go. It doesn't matter if you're wrong, right? Because then you learn if I correct you, and other people learn. So, and I don't put many messages out every day. I typically try to put one thing out every day, or maybe every couple of days. And once I know that somebody's answered the question, then I'll go on to another question. I feel that way every day. You're getting something to think about, which I think is helpful. But if that's too much for people, then I won't do it. So, but you need to guide me, you need to give me the feedback. You need to say, hey, teacher, it's too much. I just want to join the classes, So guide me in what you do. It's no problem for me to try and teach you a little thing each day on the group chat and Hello Talk, right? And then these kind of sessions are more an opportunity for you to listen to English being articulated by a native. And also it gives you a chance to speak as well, right? Although I've done a lot of speaking today, sometimes we do interviews, mock interviews. We haven't done all those for a few weeks. And somebody did comment to me the other day that early on in the class, I used to give lists of words and pronounce them all, and then get you guys to do it and record. So I'll do one of those next week during the week, which you can respond to and hear what other people are doing as well. I have not been keen to do that recently because it's a lot of work for me, listening to everybody's response and then commenting on it. So I've probably been a wee bit too work shy there, but maybe next week I'll do one of those.
Thank you, teacher.
All right. So
Thank
any
you, teacher.
questions at all? If you've got any, I know most of you know my WhatsApp number, and that's fine. But if you've got English questions, put them on Hello Talk, because then everybody can see your question and also my reply to you. All right. I'll bid you all good evening, and I'll see you next week. All right.
Okay, teacher.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.